This is Jamie Drummond for Good Food Revolution. Barring some small technical difficulties, I'm here in the company of Mr. Simon Erlanger, a gentleman I was having lunch with in Toronto just over a year ago, and how things have changed since then. Simon, tell us a little bit about what you do in Edinburgh right now and on the Isle of Harris.
Okay, so I run the Isle of Harris Distillery, and for the first 8 years of doing that, in fact, from project inception to present day, I spent 3 days a week on the island. So I would commute from Edinburgh to the local airport every week on a Monday and come back on a Thursday. And I did that week in, week out, as I say, for about 7 or 8 years, and was expecting to do the same in 2020 when suddenly lockdown happened in the middle of March. And since then, my life is very, very different. So I now sit at this desk here in Edinburgh day in, day out, and manage the Isle of Harris Distillery from a computer. So yeah, couldn't be more different.
So production is still up and running on the island itself.
Yeah, we were very fortunate. The minute the situation took hold, we closed our visitor centre and we furloughed all the hospitality team, but actually we managed to keep the distilling going. So we started by making hand sanitizer.
Oh yeah.
The first thing we did, we reached out to some local manufacturers of cosmetics on the island, and we partnered with them to provide spirit for hand sanitizer and get that distributed to the island for care homes and the health service. Because obviously in a remote place like the Hebrides, it's very difficult to get this sort of thing. So that was great. So we turned our hands to that. And then we discovered that although we'd lost all of our visitors and the business that they were bringing, and we'd lost all of our bars and restaurants, actually what we did have was a sudden boom in our online sales.
Oh yes.
In the UK. So everybody was stuck at home. Everybody was reaching out to their friends and loved ones. And the way they did that was to buy gin, and Isle of Harris gin, I think, in particular. So yeah, we were frantically busy, actually. But fortunately, because we'd already had an e-commerce facility, we were already an e-commerce business in the UK, we didn't really have to adapt very much. We just seized the opportunity and ran with it.
And how have your export markets been? Because this has affected everyone globally, and restaurants have been open and closed all over.
Yeah, I mean, it depends market by market. So we're in about 25 countries worldwide. And those markets where you drink predominantly outdoors, so Japan, Mexico, Italy,
yeah,
died a death. Those markets where people drink usually at home actually did extremely well.
Interesting.
So Canada is a case in point where we had a fantastic year in Canada, shipping to Ontario, but also new markets such as Alberta and British Columbia. Germany was very, very strong for us. Switzerland, France, some of these countries where they managed the lockdown very well. And again, people were at home and treating themselves to small luxuries.
Right. Speaking of handling the pandemic rather well, how are things in Scotland like right now?
Yeah, well, we are in crisis. We have hospital beds are fuller than they were during the first phase. Deaths are higher than they were in the first phase, but it's coping. And I think we have things relatively well under control. We're under pretty severe lockdown. Hospitality and non-essential shops are all shut. Travel is more or less forbidden outside your local area.
Right.
And I think we have a sense that the vaccinations are taking hold. So we're, I think, fourth in the world per capita for vaccination implementation, if you like. So I think there's a degree of optimism that we'll get there. I mean, the Isle of Harris is an extraordinary place because this is one of the only places in the whole of the UK that has not yet had a single case of COVID, let alone any fatalities. And so we are ultra cautious. We're being incredibly careful. We just hope that the pandemic doesn't arrive on the island. We have a very elderly population,
Oh, right.
so it would be very, very dangerous were it to arrive on the island. So at the moment, touch wood, we've been safe.
There was a small outbreak just to the south of you on Barra over the last week or so. That must be quite worrying.
Absolutely. I think Barra, there's a population of 1,000 people in Barra.
Mhm.
10–15% of them are now self-isolating. It's very worrying indeed. There are, again, a lot of elderly residents, and the only way to get to hospital is by helicopter.
Oh boy.
So, if they need a bed, they need a ventilator,
Yes.
then they have to get themselves to Glasgow very quickly. So yeah, very sensitive. So we're watching that with a lot of trepidation.
Well, I always like to end these interviews on an up note after talking about such dark topics. What has been the best thing that you have learned, something that you've gleaned from your experiences of this pandemic and or lockdown?
I would say resilience. Resilience. I mean, I've been incredibly proud of the team in Harris. I guess if you live in a Hebridean island, you become resilient. You're
Mhm.
used to things not happening the way you want them to. You're
Right.
used to the weather not being uh, helpful to your lifestyle. You're used to having to change. And I think my team have just been amazing how they have just changed what they've done. They've adapted to the new environment, and above all, a kind of sense of family and collaboration. So everyone's worked together, everyone's helped each other, and it's incredible. So we had a year that was far better than we feared.
Mhm.
We've come through it well, and we've come through it stronger. And I think as a team, we've come through stronger. We've learned a lot, and I think there are real positives. And as a business, what we realized was this whole idea we have of being the social distillery, where our purpose is to create a sense of belonging and
Mhm.
community with our customers worldwide, but also on the island. That resonates incredibly well at the moment, where people reach out for that kind of thing. And I think it's made the brand more attractive. And I think we entered 2021 with a lot of confidence.
Well, with that in mind, I think I have half a bottle of your gin downstairs, and if my wife's not observing too closely, I may have a small gin this afternoon. And toast to your health. Simon, thank you very much for joining us today. Really appreciate your time.
Fantastic. Thanks. Lovely to talk to you again, Jamie.
Bye for now.
Take care. Bye bye.